welcome into episode 27 of the Orlando Drummer Podcast. Hope you guys are doing awesome today. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing very well.
All right, man. What you got going on this weekend?
Oh, watching a little bit of the Olympics.
Yeah?
Seen any skating?
Skateboarding, yeah, it's actually really cool. It's cool to watch that
Definitely
nowadays.
Cool. Congratulations to Japan for getting gold. We still medaled. We got bronze.
Yeah. I need to catch up. I haven't watched like all of it.
Oh man, it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like if we went any farther with sports, that drumming could be an Olympic sport.
Possibly. It's about time with skateboarding. That's such a huge industry. It's massive.
It's been around since the early or mid 70s in America, and then it got really, really popular, and then I mean, even in what the commentators were saying was in Japan, it's still not even that big of a sport.
Weird.
And so to have it in the first ever, Olympic run of skateboarding in Japan, and for Japan to get gold.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is going to be huge for Japan.
Sure,
and,
sure.
Sales are going to go through the roof for every skateboarding company now. And
Well, there's some really obscure sports in the Olympics, like even like bobsledding. That's a really odd sport.
Well, now you're talking Winter Olympics.
Yeah, you're right. That's a winter sport. It's a little different. But I just mean there's some strange sports that are like, what is this? Like, what group of people has been doing this so long that they get to compete on like a world stage? Skateboarding to me is like obvious. It's so massive, you know?
Yeah.
Well, at least in our country, it's huge.
Well, incredibly physical. The fact that they can just like bail and get injured all the time during the sport. Also, they're just like chilling with AirPods in while they're skating, their phones in their pockets.
Yeah, they
I'm like,
do. Phone
that's
in the
like
pocket.
the only sport where that's acceptable.
Well, it's weird. It gets into that territory. It's kind of a drum thing, really, but like it is competitive. It can be competitive, skateboarding, but also there's an artistic, like interpretive sort of element of like who did a trick cleaner. Like that's really subjective. It's a lot like a drumming competition. Like two people play drum solos, like who did better is kind of a weird question to ask. So I feel like that's that weird threshold of like, is this a sport or is it an art? And how do you judge it necessarily? Like, right, it makes it difficult, you know?
I think you could. I mean, it's just about quantifying the actions of every competitor.
Yeah.
So it's how does this person execute a double stroke well, and how can they play this fill and incorporate it into this structured format.
I think the key is definitely having judges who have like seasoned taste, like judges with like a good set of eyes. Because like you and I could watch a skateboarding. Well, I don't know. We know a little bit about skateboarding, but like to watch two people do the same thing and then to be able to say precisely why one was better, right? Like you need a good set of eyes for that. Just like in music, right? Two people play like a paradiddle fill. Like you have to have listened to a lot of paradiddle fills to say like that one was cleaner and here's why. Because a lot of people might not be able to know.
Well, you've judged one or two drum offs,
the drum
right?
offs, yeah.
I mean, how was that? Would you you had to quantify certain things?
Yeah,
right?
it's tough, man. It's really hard. Yeah, it's really tricky. There's, you try to judge people based off of like where they are. So you can definitely tell if somebody has been playing drums for a shorter amount of time, but they worked super hard on what they played. And so you try to give them a little bit of credit for that, because you could also have someone who was very advanced but just came in and like winged it. And it's objectively a little bit better because they've been playing drums longer, but it almost seems like they didn't really rehearse or practice too much, and you see some flubs in there, versus the younger drummer who had a really tight performance within the context of like how long they've been playing and stuff. So like you try to balance that stuff out a little bit, but it's hard. It's like art versus art. Like there were definitely some examples of like two guys played awesome solos, and really it's like, who did you like better? It's kind of like that's all you can really do, you know? Because if you score them the same in technical ability, in cleanliness, in like, I don't forget what the categories were. I have a video on it actually if anyone's ever interested in the parameters of how a drum contest is judged. When I judged the Guitar Center drum off locally a few times, there's definitely there's really specific categories that you're supposed to look for, but it's interesting to talk that out because they're all debatable of like what you should count and what you shouldn't, and how many points this is worth and what this is worth, and like judging people on originality is tough because like what are you gonna play that's truly original? Like I know you're using all rudiments, you didn't come up with those. Like if you play a basic rock beat, like, well, that's extremely unoriginal, right? Like fundamentally it is. So like it's a weird one, man. It's definitely like arts and competition have a weird marriage. They're strange.
Yeah, I mean, we could go back to the Olympics, like gymnastics. I don't know if you've been watching that.
I've seen the clips, just highlights.
I mean, it's just been around for so many years, and I still watch it going, how in the hell do you, like, watch a performance and just go, 7.8? Like,
yeah,
I don't get it.
They're particularly nerdy. Where like the stuff that they like, oh, I don't know about that. I think it was a little, it's
yeah.
I don't know. They seem like pretentiously nitpicky, but we sound that way with drums, right? Probably.
We do. It'd be very, very interesting. But also, it's so, physical, and there's no noise with sports, so they're able to just kind of sit and converse and just talk about like
they get way up on the mic and whisper like that.
It's so funny. It's like golf and all
golf's
other
just
things.
like that.
It's funny.
Yeah.
You can also just kind of like catch a glimpse of all the different nuances they say to just like fill time.
Yes, a lot of time killing.
You see the form. Like, they just slow down. It's super funny. Anyway, a lot of that. Enough of the Olympics. I'm obsessed with it every 4 years, so just got to get that out of the way. Anyway, usually on the podcast we start out with loops of the week.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Did Casey say anything about loops last week?
Casey with loops. No, we didn't talk about loops. I don't think that came up. Though we've used some loops for projects with him before. What was that big thing we did? The 2 million drummer celebration where I took the sonar and drove up there. We used the loop for one of the trap loops, I think, for that track. And yeah, he's used them before for a handful of things, but no, it didn't come up in our podcast.
Okay. Well, I bet if he were to choose a loop to practice to, Casey would choose something from Classic Rock Volume 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a classic individual.
Hey, I've had conversations with Casey before. I'm famous. And, he likes that 4 on the floor stuff. So from Classic Rock Volume 1, I chose Loop 3 this week.
Loop 3.
Loop of the week. So,
all right. Yeah. Well, let's let him hear it. Classic Rock V1, Loop 3. Yeah, I mean, that is extra classic-y, that thing. That's, what do you think, 70s? Straight out of 70s?
Late 70s.
Yeah.
Kind of like, The Who. The Who's not late 70s.
I don't know, a lot of those tones in there sound very...
Well, I'm thinking kind of like organist, like Pink Floyd stuff.
Yeah, definitely an organ-heavy kind of track.
Going into that, like, really, really multi-instrumental thing. That we don't have elements like that in music anymore. Yeah,
not necessarily. Yeah, it just look at the regression of like Maroon 5. Like used to be like 5-piece funk. That's the setup.
Yeah.
And then just like no instruments now. Like 0 instrument. Like I hate that sometimes because, well, I don't know. I mean, it's not that nobody uses real instruments anymore, but I don't know. Like that's why like some of the more like modern Bruno Mars kind of stuff, because it's like, man, I can count 6 instruments that you use.
Yeah.
And there's still a synth and there's some other program stuff, but it's I don't know. Nice to hear real instruments every once in a while.
It's also just cool because it's like, well, this like famous music group is employing 10 people, not 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 10 people get to go on tour. It's kind of like Snarky Puppy. It's like, oh, there's a ton of them.
Sure.
That's cool.
We have a little less money for everybody, but yeah, at least everybody got a job.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would just depend on how big of places you're selling out.
Yeah, exactly. Relative to that, yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a good Loop Pack, classic rock. Shout out brother Joe Hodgen on the guitar.
Shout out,
and
Joe.
and before we go on to the next segment, we have I don't know the exact number, but we still have a handful of Entity OD snare drums left. There's a video that I'll link down in the description, which explains what that snare drum is. It's my signature snare drum made by brother Sal Morales down in Australia, and I want to say that there's maybe about 10 of those snares left. We make them in limited batches. So like 20 or 25 at a time. This is the second batch, and I think we have somewhere in the ballpark of only 10 of those left. It's a sick snare drum. I won't bore you with the details here, but any of my videos that you've heard in the last probably 3 years have been that snare drum. We worked on making some changes to it and kind of developed some prototypes and then rolled it out as the Entity OD. So yeah, get your hands on one of those if you want. And yeah, that's what I got, man. So what we got coming up next?
Well, what we have coming up next is Accent or Ghost.
Accent or Ghost.
Always a fun little thing. Get a little opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Your views on many aspects of the drumming industry. At the end, we'll get an approval about that aspect, which is an accent, or a disapproval, which is a ghost.
All right, let's do it.
So, what do you think about using a desk chair as a drum throne?
Maybe I would. I've never actually tried that before. Maybe in like some weird bad gig situation, I've like rolled up an office chair. If that's all you have. I feel like I've seen that before. I don't know. I mean, I like active seating positions, so I don't like relaxing and sinking into a chair almost ever. But that's more of like an editing thing. But especially with drums, though. Yeah, I like to be super active, like on the edge of the throne, weight still kind of on my feet, and sitting like super upright and kind of forward. So an office chair, I don't know, it's almost like stuff would get in the way. There's like so much to it. Like you don't want armrests on it, and you don't want it to rock too much because that would kind of throw you off after a while. I would probably say emergencies only. Would you want to do that? I can't imagine it would be ideal. Yeah, I think I'll probably have to ghost it. Probably. I think you'd be better off with like a wooden bench or something. Something like stable that doesn't move.
A piano bench.
A piano bench. Yeah, that would like a keyboard bench.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
That might work fine. Yeah. I think you need the stability. I think that's would be the problem is that, even like this is a really, really nice office chair that I'm sitting in. It's a Herman Miller Aeron. And I bought it back when I had back problems. To be honest, I don't use this chair for anything other than this podcast, like at all. I don't edit it in anymore. I stand for almost all of that stuff. But yeah, I think it's not going to be stable enough on a drum set. Also, buy a throne. They're like, we've talked about this before, but you can get a throne for like $50-$60.
Yeah.
But go spend $200 or $300. Get a rock and sock, get a DW, get a Gibraltar, get a Pearl.
Yeah.
They all make dope thrones. It's worth the money for sure. So. Yeah, no office chair. I think we'll ghost it.
Man, getting a ghost. Even that Herman Miller.
Yeah, Herman Miller.
Feel bad for all the dudes who are buying expensive gaming chairs that are using them as drum thrones. But
yeah, the gaming chair industry is popping. They got some wild chairs, don't they?
Yeah, but it's like one of those you get up and you're just like, your body feels gross.
Well, they're very like melty, right? Yeah. It's almost like a racing seat. It's like, does it have to be a bucket? But not even.
Like it's like terrible, terrible support. In all honesty, like an actual racing seat, like a Corbeau or a Recaro, would be better than a gaming chair.
Oh, I'm sure.
But you're looking at 4 times the price.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I agree with you. We should ghost desk chairs as drum thrones. Buy a drum throne.
Buy a drum throne. They make dope ones. Go get one.
All right. Cool. And then what do you think about improvised drum solos as opposed to prearranged, pre-thought drum solos?
So my personal preference there would be the improvised version. Because I like the spontaneity. I like the free-form expression. It's the difference between giving a speech and having a conversation, right? Conversation might not be the right word. It's more like a monologue. But I like hearing the free-flowing expression, sort of just what's inside people's heads and let that come out. Because there's and this is the wrong word to use, but there's like an element of cheating when it comes to like pre-written solos. And that is that you could have spent any amount of time developing this material. So like, for example, you could probably write a speech on a certain topic that is far beyond your ability to improvise on that topic, right? So you do your research and you type up exactly how you want to say it, and you edit it and you hone in on all these details, and then it's perfect. And then you memorize that, and then it's like you go to a bar and you start talking to a stranger, and then you recite this speech. Well, like, that's really, really impressive, but it's also not representative of how your thoughts actually work. It's like a weird representation because that's not how you can talk this out normally. And so there's the word contrived comes to mind. Something about writing solos feels a touch contrived, but it's also contextual because if you are going to perform that solo in front of a large group of people, you should probably have a ballpark of like what you want to do here, right? Like fully improvising in some scenarios is borderline like unprofessional. So yeah, I would think on a personal level, I always enjoy improvising, but on like the professional level, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to necessarily do that. If you're playing an arena tour and you've got a drum solo section, maybe don't improvise that. Like maybe have an idea of where we're going here so your band can keep up with the solo, so you know how long it's going to be. But on a personal level, if I just had to sit down and play for fun, like I'm always improvising. I'm not writing any particular part, but I think for the most part I'll give well, I don't know, you asked like which one. I don't know how to accent or ghost it necessarily. I think I would ghost the idea of pre-writing a solo. Why would I ghost that? I don't know. Maybe if you've never done it any other way, if that's the only way you've ever written like solo kind of material is being very, very intentional and thoughtful about it, I would say try it the other way. That's kind of my advice. If you just do it one way all the time, you'd benefit from doing it the other way. So if you're improvising constantly, like try putting some boundaries and parameters on a solo and really shaping up a drum part. That would benefit you a ton. And again, if that's the only way you've ever done it, then try, take a risk, try improvising. But those are both totally valid ways to do it. It's just the context of the specific event. Like, what are we doing this for?
Okay. So an approval, an accent.
Yeah, for sure. You can do both of those things right, for sure.
All right, improvisation. Cool. Well, it's a pretty short accent or ghost time around, so that'll end that out. That'll move us on to a little bit of a newer segment, Swap Study Shed.
Oh, yeah.
This is a fun one. For this piece of the podcast, I'll give Adam 3 drummers that he has to choose which one he would swap gigs with, take a lesson from, or hang out and shed with. This first round, we featured Dennis Chambers, Chad Sexton of 311.
Okay.
And I apologize for mispronouncing this if I do. Longino W. Parsons III, also known as LP, which is the original drummer of Yellow Card.
Yellow Card, wow. I've never heard of him before.
LP?
No.
Oh,
I've
man.
never heard of him.
You got some YouTube videos to watch, man.
All right. Yellow Card. So, okay, that's interesting. So Chad Sexton, 311, Dennis Chambers, the OG, and then LP. How do you pronounce his first name?
I believe it's Longino.
Longino. Yeah, cool name. Okay, this is a tricky one, man. It's weird because Yellow Card and 311 have hit me the same in that like nostalgic gig sort of thing. Very nostalgic. I feel like, I don't know, because a Yellow Card gig would be fun too. That's like early pop punk kind of thing. That would be super fun to play. Who played bigger shows, 311 or Yellow Card?
311.
311,
for
right?
Sure, because they're still doing it.
Yeah.
So,
They
Yellow Card.
Yeah. I think I might take the 311 gig. I think I would take the 311 gig because okay. I'm going to change it. So I'm going to take the Yellow Card gig from LP. I'll swap with him. The study, I think I have to go Dennis Chambers. How do you not take a lesson with Dennis Chambers? He was teaching out of Baltimore for quite a while. I think it was expensive, like $100 or $120 an hour, which is an earned price, for one of those guys. But I think Baltimore is where he taught out of for a while. So I would definitely study with him. And then shed, I would do Chad Sexton just because hanging out in the 311 environment, that would be really cool. Like I wonder what those shows are like, right? It's an interesting market and a group of people.
They're super chill, man.
Yeah, that's a good one. What would you do with these 3?
I would study with LP.
Okay.
And then I would swap with Chad, and then I would shed with Dennis.
Shed with Dennis.
Okay, you know what? It's funny too because saying that out loud sounds like I want to be embarrassed, but I think that like that kind of humbling experience would push me as a person more so than like, shedding with Chad.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
Like, oh, okay, cool. I shedded with the drummer of 311. It's like, no, I got embarrassed by Dennis Chambers. I think that's a better story.
That's a good answer. It is a better story, too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hell yeah, that was a good one.
All right. Cool. That'll do it for round one. Quick round, man.
All right.
Rapid fire these.
We got round 2.
Round 2. Got some old reliables. Johnny Rabb.
Okay.
Joost Nickel. And Robert Sput Seawright.
Okay. Oh, I like that picture of Spud. That's cool.
Yeah, isn't that dope?
Yeah, that's sick. And the picture of Joost is hilarious.
That's so cool.
That's
what
amazing.
a cool guy, man.
And then the Johnny Rabb photo, too. You got some wild photos for this one. What year did this Meinl ad for Johnny Rabb come out?
Oh, 1982.
Is it really?
No.
82? It looks
early
90s.
2000s.
Early 2000s.
For sure. He did Generation X a long time ago.
Yeah, that's not a good ad. That's so corny.
That's so cool. It's so cool. You wish you could have photos like that.
Oh, man. Yeah, right? Man, okay. So Johnny Rabb, to me, technique always comes to mind. He's like a technique wizard. He's got, I don't know, just a lot of wild, kind of like a Jojo Mayer type of drummer where it's very technique oriented. So studying with him, I think, would be very interesting. I'm tempted to say study with Joost, but Joost is also cool. So I kind of just want to hang out with you. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to stick with that. So Johnny Rabb, I would study. I take the lesson with him specifically to get some weird techniques. I think I'm just going to hang out with Joost because Joost Nickel is very, very cool. If you've ever seen him on podcasts or interviews or ever talk with the guy, he's a really, really cool guy. Goofy, too. He's like a silly dude, so he'd be a fun hang for sure. And then with Sput, I would shed with him and get absolutely annihilated. And I love that.
Hold on. You're gonna hang out with Joost? That's shed.
Oh, hang out is shed.
So the next one is swap.
Swap. Oh man. Okay. I'll swap with Sput then in that case. You're right. Sorry, I mixed those two up. Like shed and hang out were not the same thing.
So we're doing a little ghost note gig.
Yeah. Or I prefer Snarky.
Yeah.
But,
that's a tall order, man.
The problem is I can only sit in for like one song because I cannot do like a 3-hour Snarky Puppy gig. I don't have it in me, man. My brain will just melt like 2 songs in. Yeah. But I could do one. I could do 1 or 2 songs, no problem. That'd be fun.
I don't know.
I would do What About You? Or was it What About Me?
That's What About Me.
What About Me? That's the song I would do. Yeah. I would, I want to swap and only that song, please.
Okay. All right. Cool. Comment down below if you'd like Adam to post a cover of that song.
Give me 6 months.
6 months? You can do it in a month, solid.
That one song, yeah, probably. It's a long song, though. They're all like 10 minutes, right?
It depends on live or recorded.
Yeah.
Live is twice as long as
you're right.
But yeah, you could do... Yeah, just recorded version and not emulate what Sput had recorded originally, but
get the sections down at least.
Yeah, they're pretty.
It'd be a lot of fun. I love this picture of him. That's sick. Whatever that background and stuff is.
It's just a lot of lights.
Yeah,
a lot of cool gobos, man.
All right,
some cool gobos.
You the lighting boy.
Just one term. Yeah. All right. Cool. So what was that? We're gonna study with Johnny.
Study with Johnny.
We're going to shed with Joost, and we're going to swap with Sput.
Yes, that's the plan. Shedding with Joost would also be embarrassing. But yeah, and then swap with Sput, but only one song. And I want it to be What About Me?
I'm surprised because with Joost's teaching record, Benny Greb, Annika Niles, and then possibly several other drummers you never heard of that are probably wildly amazing.
Well, so I look at it this way, though. With Joost, he has so much educational material that I also feel like I could learn a lot from him. Like, I own both of his books. Joost has... I think he's got several books, but Joost Nickel's Fill book and Joost Nickel's Groove book, I've talked about on this podcast before. Both of those are absolutely sick. So in my eyes, I'm like, if I want to learn some Joost stuff, I got 2 of his books sitting around here that are just they're so well done, Definitely worth your money if you want to invest, in some Joost Nickel concepts. Man, he's a great killer teacher. But you're right. I mean, it would be not a bad choice to take a lesson with Joost Nickel. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Cool. That was a good one, man.
Cool. That'll end out Swap, Study, Shed. That'll move us on to Sleeper Spotlight.
Sleeper Spotlight.
That's right. In this segment, we introduce a drummer that y'all are honestly sleeping on. And we'll get Adam's opinions, impressions, and constructive criticism, if any at all. First up today, from France. Who we are killing in medals in the Olympics, by the way. Although they did a really good job in men's BMX. So,
okay.
Good for France.
Shout out France.
Anyway, enough about men. Let's talk about the women of France, specifically at Clara Drums.
Okay.
A sick drummer from France over there. Got about 7,000 followers. Let's check out some videos from Clara.
All right. Video 1 from Sister Clara. How dead is that kit? Whew, that thing is funked out. Awesome. That was good, man. It was tough for me to tell what was intentionally what's the word? Like chunked out, like almost like that intentional, I don't want to say delay, but like in the ballpark of drunk drumming necessarily. Mm-hmm. It was kind of an interesting clip in that way. Also, I love her crash cymbal. Is it an extra dry thin?
Something like that.
Sounds like it's my left crash cymbal, same one. Well, I don't know. There's a short clip. Let's play that one more time. It might actually be the Zildjian dry.
I think it's Istanbul.
Istanbul,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting. I love the kit sound. Those toms, whoa, just that fat thuddy sort of sound, man.
That Ludwig, man.
Yep.
Super
nice
dope.
softbox in the back, getting that quality light in there.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool. Let's do one more clip from Clara.
We got another one.
Was it like a gong at the end? Big old sound. That was a crazy sound.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Really cool. Definitely, Clara's feel is really on point here. That shuffle was very, very clean. I also like hearing people transition from like a more straight groove into the triplet groove, because that contrast between subdivisions sort of, I don't know, you can hear like the level of clarity that they have, and her shuffle was very, very clean. Also, I like the extra backbeat in there. That little extra snare hit. I also thought the mix was awesome here too. That like cranked metal snare. It looks like an aluminum snare.
I think it's an acolyte. Yeah.
An acolyte, okay, yeah. Cranked, but with the reverb on it, that was really, really cool. I liked the mix and everything here, man. That was very, very clean. Definitely well-developed technique, too. If you watch her right hand in that clip, really, really nice flow to her right hand. So definitely solid technique all around. Ghost notes look good, too, man. Yeah, she's awesome. That was sick, Claire.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Claire. You're awesome.
Yeah,
keep doing what you're
out.
doing. Got another drummer up today, as we usually have two.
Okay.
This drummer was recommended by his friend Raul, who says, I assist this drummer from Durban, South Africa, in posting some content, and he hasn't got the means at this time. His name is Sia Zulu and lives in the Bronx in South Africa, Durban. We call them townships.
Okay.
This guy has no car, walks to gigs, doesn't even have a drum kit to practice on, but check out his skills.
Doesn't have a drum set to practice on. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
He says a feature would be great. This guy deserves more exposures. This
Okay.
is Sia Zulu.
Sia Zulu. That's a sick name, too.
Yeah.
All right. First video from Sia. Interesting. It reminds me of a specific thing that almost like an Eric Moore kind of approach, in that it's very like like heavy, fast punches throughout, right? Like the overall dynamic level is pretty high, so and it stays that way, right? Like it's not. The playing is not subtle. It's like powerful even when it's quiet. There's a certain powerful element. And the accents or like the spikes dynamically, the things that punch out, happen often, right? So it's not like it's not like that. There's not that much space. It's more like like very quickly.
Yeah, it's a machine gun.
Yeah, it's a machine gun. Yeah. So he's definitely got that sort of style. I would like to see in a playing style like this a touch more space, because what ends up happening is it's and this is not a bad thing necessarily, it's all within context, but like it's dynamically very aggressive, right? There's not a lot of breathing room, so it makes you have to wake up just to listen to what's happening, and I think a lot of times it's almost easier to say certain things rhythmically if you leave a little bit of space to say them, instead of like being so punchy, even though those punches are very, very clean for sure. A lot of hand and foot patterns as well, like less in the rudiment playing style and a little bit more of like hand-foot combinations, which you can use rudiments to do that, but there were a lot of those in there. But those kind of things open up that weird mobility. It's how you jump from the entire one side of the kit to the other, back and forth really quickly. It's a lot of those weird hand and foot patterns, and he had a bunch of those down, which definitely makes for some cool aesthetic drumming. You get all these like weird mobility options, but it was an interesting clip from Sia for sure. Let's do the next clip from him.
Hold on 1 minute before you do that.
Okay.
It is 5.5 minutes long.
Okay.
You can watch the whole thing. You just pick out your favorite parts of it. It does get pretty dope, like a minute in.
Okay.
But otherwise it's long, so you'll be watching it for a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, let's start. We'll start from the top, and then maybe I'll jump in.
All right, cool.
Really cool. Really cool. I love how powerful he plays, man. It first of all, that kit sounds good. Yeah, awesome sounding kit. The toms are super, super rich and EQ'd very well. They cut right through that mix. And I love, like, I don't know, man, when people play this powerfully, it makes drums sound better. Like, they actually sound better. You ever seen somebody do like a cymbal demo on YouTube and they're like, it's like kind of a light little, I'm like, dude, please just smack it with a baseball bat. Like, please let me hear what it actually sounds like.
You can have this exact cymbal at mycymbal.com.
Yeah. They're normally pretty good. Mycymbal.com, they're pretty good.
Of course.
But there's definitely some like cymbal and drum demos. Drums are even more frustrating when they don't like genuinely just smack the tom super hard. Yeah, like I don't care what I don't care what like the lower end resonance sounds like, dude. I don't care what like the hum of the drum is like. Man. Yeah, but I love hearing people like this play because I'm like, oh, that's what that kit sounds like. And the cymbal too. I mean, there was one cymbal hit where he just like the Bruce Lee one finger or like 1 inch punch. Yeah. Remember that whole thing? It's just like, no swing or wind up. Yeah. Just like a blast of energy right into it. So it makes your kit sound good. Definitely the kind of drummer that's nice to record in the studio. Engineers love these kinds of drummers. It's just so clean and articulate. It's definitely more difficult to mix subtle playing. Like mixing jazz, I think would be more challenging from an engineering standpoint than mixing, let's just say, rock or funk or fusion with a drummer that has that kind of power. It's just a lot easier to hear what's going on. And definitely more subdued, ghosty kind of playing in that little solo section. Not quite the full like Eric Moore powerhouse style, though that is kind of his style, though definitely punchy. But yeah, man, this was an awesome clip from Sia, man. Shout out him. That was sick.
Yeah, and if you want to check out that full cover, it is on his Instagram. So it's about 5 minutes long.
Cool.
Anybody wanted to watch that whole thing.
And shout out brother Kaz too, man. Good buddy.
Yeah. Shout out Kaz Rodriguez.
Yeah, man.
Okay, that'll do it for Sleeper Spotlight.
Good sleepers today.
Yeah, we have a fun Q&A today. Today's Q&A is brought to you by anybody who made comments on the InstaChops page of Would You Rather questions.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to start out with a heavy hitter. We talked about Casey Cooper earlier. He's back again.
He's
back again.
Can't get rid of this dude.
Yeah, I know, right? He submitted an awesome Would You Rather question. His question is, would you rather listen to one song for 24 hours straight, one album for a month, or one band for a year?
Let me pull this question out. I feel like I need to read the 3 options right in front of me.
So one song for one day. 24 hours straight.
What that would just suck. That would suck. Like, it would be okay if it was like a 20-minute song, but there's not that many of those. It's more than likely if you're talking like a 3-minute song, you're just gonna hate that song. I couldn't even do that in high school when you listen to the same music like all the time over and over. I couldn't do the same song all day.
It would be over quickly. It's 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
It'd be done. You'd be done, right? And you're like, God, I never have to listen to that song ever again.
You'd ruin whatever the song was. You're gonna hate it forever now.
But the album for a month. Think of like week 2. You're just like,
yeah. But see that I actually remember doing. I remember in 20. When was it? Whenever I was like 15, when that big Under Oath album came out. Not the original big one, the next big one. I don't remember what it was. I was like 15 or 16, so this was like 05, 06. And I remember playing that album on repeat exclusively. Like, there was no other music that I listened to for at least a month. I remember doing that. That's kind of a young thing to do. Like, you just pretend this is the best album in the world for some reason.
Was it Cries of the Past or
No.
The Changing of Times?
So Changing of Times was older. It was after Changing of Time. Defy the Great Line.
Define the Great Line.
Define the Great
There we
Line.
go.
Yep, that was the one. Wake up, wake up, wake up. That one.
I was a big fan of Disambiguation.
Oh, okay.
Really, really awesome album.
Yeah, they were like core band within my friends group at age 14, 15, 16 for sure. Knew all those drum parts, could play every album. Them and like Seosin, Circa Survive.
Oh my God!
That whole angry ambient world.
Seosin. I don't know why
Seosin.
that brought back like a million memories of just saying that band name. That is so funny.
Oh yeah, they were huge when I was in high school.
Massive.
Massive.
Yeah,
and we say that now, but like,
Yeah.
they were just massive to us. They really weren't that famous.
They were like,
bands.
you could go see them, and you
Yeah.
were just like, "There's 100 people here."
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that was
yeah.
famous to us, because in regards to like going to local gigs, a famous local band had 50 people at the gig, but a famous touring band had 100 plus,
A few hundred, yeah.
and it was
yeah.
just like that blew our minds because we're
Yeah.
just like, that's so much fans,
So many people. Funny.
but crazy.
Yeah.
All right,
So okay, so
yeah.
that's one album for a month. That sounds doable to me. One band for a year. If it's an old enough band with enough albums, that would be feasible. But I also don't think you would ever recover from what that would do to you. Like your playing would be forever changed. If you said for 1 year I only basically take one influence musically, like that will definitely change your playing. You will start hearing that drummer's playing in everything, right? Because you can't help it. So to me, the most doable version of this, listening to one song for 24 hours straight, one album for a month straight, or one band for a year, I think the album for a month sounds doable, where you could get something out of it. You're not going to go completely crazy and hate the music forever. I think that would be the sweet spot for me. So that's what I'll say. That's a good question. But yeah, one album for a month straight is what I would do.
One album for a month.
What about
Okay.
you? You sounds like, would you do the single song? Just get it over with?
No. Rush has 19 albums in their discography,
Ooh, that's
which is more than an album a month,
Yeah.
technically.
At least you get the variety.
Yeah, you go through the history of everything, analyze lyrics,
Yeah.
drum parts, a lot of bass parts and guitar parts.
You could study a band like that for a year. You definitely could.
Yeah, you definitely know a lot. In a year, you would know more than you would care to know.
You would.
About that band. Oh my God. I don't know, maybe 24 hours straight. Just so it's done.
Just to be done.
Because
Yeah.
then I could just pick, a 20-minute song.
Yeah, you just pick a long song. That's the key. You pick a 3-minute song, you're cycling that thing a few hundred times, right?
Yeah, because as long as it was a good enough band and it was long enough.
Catch, the song is Call Me Maybe. So
Ooh.
I'm trying to think of what would just drive you insane to hear that many times. Probably like a bubblegum pop song. That would get you.
Or like a K-pop song.
Yeah. Ugh.
Insane. Or even if it was like a spoken, I've said this before, like I don't deal well with spoken word bands.
Yeah.
Like if it was that, yeah.
Oh yeah, that would
Couldn't do
drive
it.
you crazy. Though
Couldn't do it.
You mentioned K-pop for a sec. Is BTS considered K-pop?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're Korean.
Dude, that song. What's the new one? Oh, what's it called? How do I not know the name of it if I'm going to mention it? It sounds like Dirty Loops. The mix sounds like Dirty Loops is what it sounds like.
Is it Butter?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, there's some corny verses in there, but
pulling it up.
The bridge of that song with that little repetitive melodic, almost a guitar type synth tone over it, with the weird swung, super chunky, like thick bass mix. Man, it's like they went for like a Dirty Loops kind of mixing sound. I really like it. It's I don't like anything from that band, but that song is sick. Actually, from a mixing perspective, like I thought it was mixed super, super well. Very interesting, like ultra modern fusion pop sort of mix, which is Dirty Loops, right?
Yeah. So I'll go on record saying I've never listened to BTS. I've looked it up on YouTube. This video on YouTube of Butter has 490 million views.
490 million. That is like unfathomable.
I like 490,000. Like 400, like 500 million views. I've never listened to it, so I'm just to understand what you're talking about.
Sure. We won't play the audio on the podcast, copyright shit. But go ahead, listen to it.
That's
good, right?
It's definitely good. Yeah, that bass line was awesome.
Yeah, it was sick, and that's like I don't like that music that's like clearly written in a conference room is what it sounds like. It's so contrived to make money. That's what that band is, you know. But that song is absolutely sick. It's so BTS Butter. Look that up. That shit hits, dude. You can't tell me that song doesn't hit. That sounds sick.
I can see why this has 490 million views. It is dope. So visually appealing.
Oh, is it? I've never seen the video.
The video is sick.
Yeah. I mean, they got the budget for it.
Well, a lot of it's green screen, but some of it is actual sets. And then there's like wardrobe in it, and the lighting looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And like the color balancing in it looks phenomenal.
Sure.
And whoever the makeup artist is for all these men to make them look like children, good fucking job.
They do look
Holy shit.
They do look like children.
Oh my God.
I have like a cultural and maybe it's just like a cultural disconnect necessarily. Like for some reason, like a team of young Asian men singing pop songs for young girls. You know, I don't think I'm supposed to get it. Like we're not the demographic for a band like this.
It's fine if we're not fans. It'd be weirder if we were fans.
It'd be a little weirder if we were, yeah. But I don't know. It's nice to see in a project like that. I'm like, oh, well, you killed that one. That song was so dope. I've never heard anything else. If anything, I'm more like cringe at most of their music. Like, what is this?
In the early days, I was like, I don't get the craze. Yeah. And now that they're so big, it's like, okay, I kind of get it now. I understand what angle they were going for. But
well, Shout Out Hover mixed that. I think there was an engineer pulling strings on the back end of that song, and that dude is dope. That was sick.
Hybe or Hebe Labels, I guess is whatever record label that is. I'm not even sure where that is based out of, but
probably not
if it's based out of Korea, it's a Korean producer.
Gotcha.
So, something like that. All right, anyway. Cool. Thank you, Casey, for your Would You Rather question.
Thanks,
always
man.
Great to feature him and other drummers on the podcast. It was a good question. I said 24 hours straight. Ended up doing that. You said 1 album for a month.
Yeah.
So do that. Next, Would You Rather question from Bren Sticker.
Okay.
Would you rather play a $200 acoustic kit or a $1,000 electric kit? Which are electric kits even good at $1,000?
I mean, you're definitely above the like bottom end of the barrel, right? Like they're bottom end of the barrel. Is that how you say that?
Bottom end of the barrel?
Yeah, that was probably the wrong way to say it. Like the cheapest like entry level electric kits. I would think $500 is right around where like it's not a toy anymore. $1,000 is just over that line, but like they're nowhere near pro until you get a bit past that.
Like $3-4 grand.
Well, like you can get the TD-17 for like $1,700 or $1,800, and it's dope. It's really cool, but not $1,000, not quite $1,000. I'm not sure what exact model you'd get. For look that up. Well, what are the $1,000 models of electric kits? The problem with the $200 acoustic kit is like it's going to be basically a toy. So I don't know if those are the best price points to compare. It might be like $500 kit versus $1,000 electric. But basically, which cheap version of those would you prefer to play? For me, I'm going to go acoustic like all the time. I think. I don't know. Like. Electronic kits, we've talked about them plenty of times on this podcast, but for me, they don't like really blow me away until they're worth a lot more money. But an acoustic kit, you could get over that really quickly, even if it's cheap. Like you just, okay, it's cheap, but then you still have all the normal options and like less limitations with an acoustic kit. It feels like a little more, you could get used to it and just jam it like it's a normal kit. But a cheap electric kit, you're not going to get over that. Like it sounds bad, it feels bad, it's weird.
You're playing plastic.
Yeah, it just wouldn't have the right. I couldn't ignore that it was cheap, but an acoustic kit, a cheap one, I could ignore that it was cheap and still jam and have fun. So I think that'd be my answer. I think I would go with the cheaper acoustic if those are my options.
$200.
$200 though. That might be the wrong price for this question because that's
a Salvation Army kit.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to the back of the thrift store.
That's a Goodwill kit. Which, if you can get a kit for cheap, go for it. Like,
sure.
If you're going to enhance your skills based on $0 spent, $200. Good for you. It's awesome. Make that kit sound the best.
Sure.
Also, a TD-17, $1,900.
$1,900. Okay, so we're still not even close.
No,
that's a great kit though. It's a really cool.
They're really good. But then I don't even think $1,000. Not an Elysis.
Yeah, you definitely need a little cash to get in the electric kit game, for sure. I mean, you could, Elysis definitely makes some really, really cheap ones, but in my eyes, it's not. You're in like toy territory, right?
A little bit, yeah.
You be careful there.
Yeah, I don't think Roland makes anything under $1,000 actually.
Probably not.
Okay, TD-10. You can get a TD-10 for $720.
Okay, I'm sure that's decent.
Or TD-1, sorry, not TD-10.
Okay.
Maybe still, some good for $1,000. Good starter kit. That'd be good. $200 acoustic kit. All the way, though. Mm-hmm. You can beat that thing to hell.
All day.
Cool. Thank you, Bren, for the question. Next, would you rather, from Joey Sanal.
Okay.
Would you rather only be able to use one rudiment for the rest of your life, or use only one hand and two legs? So, a la Def Leppard's drummer.
Gotcha. So for me, this is easy. I would lose a hand. I think that is less of a limitation than using one rudiment.
6-stroke roll.
That's probably what I would pick. Probably. But, God, there's so much you can't play, right? Because you can't even cut the rudiment short because it's not the rudiment. You have to play the whole thing. So everything is in a cycle of 6. So, that's so... How do you play a measure of 16th notes? You can play 2 6-stroke rolls, that's 12 notes, and you got 4 left over. What do you play for the last 4?
You roll
You'd have to do a kick in
2 of the last 6-stroke roll into the next bar.
Yeah, but you didn't. So now you like mandatory going over the bar line. That's really tricky. I mean, the smartest one would be a paradiddle, something that technically the cycle is only 4 notes, like right, left, right, or left, left. Put the kicks in. Yeah, that probably would be the most versatile choice. If you could only play one rudiment forever, would just be a standard paradiddle or an inverted paradiddle. Might actually pick that, but. I don't know. If you only had one hand, I guess you can't play any rudiments, but you can do all sorts of combinations. You would find a way to compensate for that. I think that's what I would go with. I would ditch the hand, and I would do that. One rudiment forever just sounds like, how much are you going to say with only one word, right? Like you're going to run out of things to say because you only got one word to build your sentences with, right?
Well, now we know what we need to do. We need to tie your hand. Whichever one, you can pick left or right, behind your back, and you have to play to a loop with one hand.
With one
legs.
hand.
That's the next video that you have to post.
I could do it. Okay. It would just be...
All right. Well, you said you could do it, so you can't lie to me, can you?
This is the content people need.
I'm technically... I mean, if you're talking about, validating people with one arm, take away an arm.
Yeah.
Take away an arm.
We could do it.
Okay, you could do it. That's what you said. I did not say I could do it.
The problem is I don't want to.
The thing. All right, cool. Well, last, would you rather from cliff.is.board, would you rather have to sacrifice your second floor tom, which is still there,
okay,
or your second crash? What is your second crash on your kit?
Second crash. That's the extra thin hammered 20-inch crash. That's a good one too. Ooh. So get rid of the second crash cymbal or the second floor tom. I think probably second floor tom, because for me the second floor tom has turned into, I guess I would describe it as like an auxiliary tom, in that I could play entire songs and never touch it. It's not like I depend on it where like I would go to hit it and be like, oh no, it's not there. That would happen all the time if I took that crash away though. Like it would take like 6 months before I stopped swinging for it because it's been in that position for like many, many, many years. Probably my entire life. I think I've always had 2 crashes up top, right? But the third tom, the big floor tom set back, I think I would pretty quickly get used to that not being there. I don't think that would be too big of a deal. So that's what I would do. But that's I like that one. It's very tricky for sure.
It's one of those. I mean, once you have it kind of permanently set up, you would miss it for a bit.
Yeah, some stuff. Did you ever play 2 floor toms?
Nah.
No?
Nah.
Always just one up, one down?
It seemed like one thing to be like, oh, I got to keep going to use this. There's no application for it unless there's like really heavy rock beats, something like that. I was only in like a weird surf rock band, so it just never, it didn't apply to that.
Yeah, you don't need it in surf rock. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, I think you would have a harder time getting rid of a rack tom if you were used to playing like 2 up, like a 10-12 or a 12-13, whatever tom sizes people are doing. I think that you would get very, very used to something up and in front of you. It's almost like a positional thing though, because the extra floor toms are like back and to the right. Like you don't see it quite as often. So I think you could get used to not having that. Yeah. But if you took away a rack tom, that's a problem for sure. I would be swinging all the time up there if you were used to that, right?
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for your Would You Rather questions. That'll do it. That'll close out the Q&A segment of the podcast.
All right.
I'll leave it to you to close out the entire podcast. It's been lovely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. So I thought it would only be appropriate that we would close out a podcast like this by acknowledging, big loss to the drum industry in Joey Jordison, man. That's a rough week for the metal world. Powerful player, influenced a lot of people. I'm sure there's people listening to this podcast that would list Joey Jordison as one of their favorite drummers, and a guy who had a big reach, big influence, and certainly made a big impact in the drum industry. So I don't know. It's one of those things that always makes you think, like, I mean, life is fatal. Like, we're all, this kills all of us, right? But it's one of those things like, man, it is weird to think that we'll see the death of so many different drummers. He was very young. I think he was 46 when he died, which is very, very young. But it is weird to think that, like, man, we're eventually going to lose them all. It's strange to think about that. So it's definitely a good week to appreciate, whatever drummers that you like, that you've taken influence from, that you enjoy. If they're older than you, you'll probably live to see them, move on from this planet. So it's, I don't know, it's always, it's whenever you lose somebody passes like that, always good to just think like, man, are you living in full appreciation of those kinds of people, because it's, you can't keep everybody in the forefront of your mind at all times, but sometimes there's moments where it's like, you know what, let me just take a minute to say, like, I really appreciate this drummer, this player. Maybe you've got somebody like that, where it's just, it's a worthwhile thought experiment to say, man, one day that guy's not going to be here, but he's here right now, and that's awesome. So I'm sure I can speak for everybody when I say, Joey Jordison will be deeply, deeply missed. Awesome player, and again, a guy who had a lot to be proud of, that's for sure. Left a big dent in the music industry, for sure. Yeah. So shout out, Joey. Rest in peace, brother.
Thank you, Joey.
That's all I got for you in this episode, guys. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. This has been episode 27 of the Orlando Drummer Podcast. We will catch you guys next week.
See you.
Bye.